Hi, good morning.
Hello, hello. Good morning. Nice shirt or kurta,
Morning.
not sure, but lovely colors.
Kashmir.
Ah,
I went crazy over there. I just
yeah.
couldn't stop
Beautiful
myself.
colors, yeah.
The colors, the embroidery, I think the color combinations also
Very good, yeah.
so subtle. They're just beautiful. So thankfully, I wasn't carrying as much money, and there wasn't enough in my any of my accounts. So I was able to buy only what I needed, not as much as I
Good,
wanted.
good, yeah. No, I think there's a connection between the place you live in and the art you create. So when you see Rajasthan Kutch, it has its own beauty, but they like their brilliant colors because it's so bland. But
Correct.
not bland, but it still
Hmm.
have all those in the natural landscape. But Kashmir has a lot of color otherwise. So I
It
think they've
does.
all gone subtle and
Hmm.
very,
I
and
think
there's a lot of influence I think from the north, Persia and this and that, all their shapes and
right. Yeah,
we have
lot of
Superman
Persian.
who's come.
Yeah. I hope that's Rohit.
That
Hello, hello.
was hi.
Good
Hi.
morning. Good morning.
He's got nice eyes on his t-shirt.
Oh, thanks. That's Batman. Brown.
Ooh, that's Batman. See, and your name says Superman. So anyway, some superhero today.
Oh, thank you. That's mostly grumpy Batman. Yes.
Grumpy Batman.
No,
Batman is
this,
usually grumpy any case, I think. He
yeah.
doesn't like people like that.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Everyone's here.
So I was telling Janita last time I sat down for my class, which was a good thing because I completed my veggies. Not
Ah,
too great, but I'll just show them to you.
yes, let's have a look.
Quick glance at them.
Nice.
Okay.
No, they're
So I
good. This is good.
did that. So, and then I was showing her these watercolor vegetables that I saw on fruit that I saw on Pinterest because I'm very poor at washes. So I thought
Ah,
I'll try that.
this
But
is
the
also
watermelon
very nice.
isn't great, but the peach came out nice.
Peach
Peach
is really
was,
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
that came out okay.
Today we are doing some washes.
Oh,
So this is what we were going to do last week, but because of this whole Ganesh Utsav and all, I didn't realize that I had some events to go to. I found out last minute. So today we will continue with the second part of the food illustration, where I want you to start seeing some uh, complex forms with very simple lines. In the past, what we've done, what we often do, is um, to make as precise a composition as our reference image, then using all sorts of measurements, try to block spaces in the proportion and make it look very accurate. But today I'm going to throw accuracy out of the window. What I want you to enjoy is being able to depict a certain food item, excuse me, with a lot of energetic lines. So they don't have to necessarily be drawn really fast, but in very brief lines, you will be able to convey some kind of food item. I have just shared a few images on the group, which I will talk you through, and I will demonstrate how to create one of these illustrations, and then we will all make one or two of those. So I've just picked up random illustrations of different kinds, literally from Pinterest, whichever looks appealing. I'm looking for different textures. Here we have the texture of waffles, berries, some cream, this is a very nice potential illustration because it's got color, texture, a lot of variety in all those, but there's also some order. Similarly over here, lots of different textures, but one theme. And then we have what could be thought of as a still life. So this is different from how you would perceive these images. This won't be still life. This is just food photography. Here you are adding props. So say, for example, in terms of food illustration, the illustration or the recipe could be for biscotti. But biscotti in themselves, they are very bland looking. As illustration, they're not as exciting as when you take a bite out of biscotti. So in order to make the illustrated page look exciting enough, excuse me, or attractive enough, you can add different props to it. You can add its accompanying coffee, then the coffee maker, the espresso machine, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to show you some things about, so there are two ways of doing it, just the food illustration, like something like this, and then with props. But both these can be tackled with really casual, sketchy lines and also an equally casual style of painting. So I'm going to tackle the waffles first. And I want you to just observe, don't draw anything. I'm going to draw it in 10 minutes. And maybe in 10-15 minutes, I might also be able to paint part of it, at least the first wash. So just observe, don't bother drawing right now. So I want you to see how the hand moves across the composition. Sorry, there's something in my throat. I'm not making a very large illustration. My illustration is just going to be about, just about half the page. Just about so much. So I'm looking at making 3 illustrations here. Maybe the waffles here, the bowl of ramen here, and the coffee and biscotti over here, all on one page. That's the size. If you make food illustration really large, you have to put in too much detail, and usually that's not required. Large illustrations should be landscapes. Then medium-sized illustrations should be maybe still life, but a whole range, a big composition. Faces should be drawn only as big as the face or smaller. So there is a proportion to all subjects that we choose, and food really does not have to be too large. So I have in front of me the picture of the waffles, and I'm just going to follow some of those lines. And I'm not even going to care too much about transparency or lack of. So let's say I'm going to draw a whole plate. In that, I have a little bit of cream, whipped cream on top. So I've not drawn just a random line. I have looked at the shape made by the cream and then tried to recreate that part. Then we have the waffles. So I'm going to make an outline of the waffle shape. And in that, I'm going to maybe draw some squares, but they may not be accurate. I'm not trying to make them look realistic. I'm just trying to make them look indicative of a waffle. There's some more waffle here. And I don't even see part of it, but I get the idea. So I'm just making some rounded squares in a particular location. Now here, if I make the full square over here, that would look odd because the piece is broken. All these squares are adjacent to each other. So there should be some touch of reality, but not necessarily in the shapes. the information that you give should be close to reality, but not necessarily identical. You know what I mean? And then we have berries. So even when you're making berries, if you make slightly triangular berries, they will look more like strawberries. If you make them slightly rounded with a hole in the center, these will look like raspberries. So there's subtle shape differences in almost all objects, but I could easily draw these berries not almost as if they're transparent. The blueberries can just come like so. And I have a rim for the plate. So if you can notice that I've not really made too much 3D. I can add a little dimension here on the sides so that the waffles actually look like they're edible waffles. A few lines to reinforce 3 dimension in a few key places. And that should be enough. Now to color this, I'm going to use equally simple strokes and simple coloring technique. It's more about the energy of the illustration than accuracy of the objects. Now, since the plate is a bland gray color, I'm going to paint that with a mix of grays. I'll put the color down so you know what I'm talking about. This is a cobalt blue and black. And it's just a very generic gray, which I'm going to apply very loosely. So enough water and just let the color flow. So what I wanted to show you was refrain from holding your brush so close that you are making very accurate shapes like that. This leads to a lot of patchiness. But hold your brush far away and press it down. Now this illustration is very loose any case, so you don't have to worry about color coming out a little bit off the lines or not being applied everywhere. It won't matter. Now, the same color I'm going to take and apply somewhere in the middle of these objects to make the plate look filled up. And this same color, I'm also going to apply in a few strokes on the cream. It's still just the same color. Now, the waffles are going to be made in at least 2, if not 3 layers. So I'm going to make the first layer here using a combination of yellow and, gamboge and orange. And I am going to paint in the middle of those squares and a few borders. So I'm leaving some highlights. One edge of the squares can be filled up because that's the inside, and those are often shaded. And the edges. So again, if you can see, my brush is moving very loosely. And in many cases, for the first wash, I'm not even sticking to the shape of the waffle. Some color is going to merge behind. Please allow that color merge. Don't be too scared. What if this happens? What if it looks bad? It won't look bad if you just allow it to be. And secondly, if you take only enough paint to fill up a third of your brush, you won't have enough to mess up anyway. Regarding fruit, again, the same thing. I'm using 1 layer of orange and scarlet. This will later on turn into a more scarlet color, maybe even a little bit of crimson. And as far as the raspberry is concerned, I can directly go with crimson. So getting that shape and color is the key. And the blueberry will be a mix of cobalt and ultramarine. And normally now we would stop, we wait till the earlier color has dried. But today I'm urging you to not bother with that. Make quick sketches. The lines don't have to be perfect, and quick application, and allow some color to run into each other. So the blueberry has a lot of detail in it, but we don't need to bother with that. I'm adding a few more here. Just focus on getting the shapes right. Okay, so this is layer 1. I can make more layers on this as we proceed. I can start painting on this right away also while it is wet so that the energy is preserved. I think I can give it 2 more minutes. So the next color I will use will be slightly deeper. For every successive layer, you paint something less or paint something else. Keep looking at the reference image because all the cues are there. You see that the highlights are between these squares of the waffle. So you'll see it. You won't have to wonder, what do I have to paint? And as far as possible, try pressing the brush like that. You get a completely different application and effect. Unlike a brush or pencil, unlike a pen or pencil or our regular writing tools, a brush can do a lot more. It's multidimensional. So the sooner you practice bringing that out of the brush, the better your result is going to be. Another minute. Here I'm adding one more color, making it slightly deeper. And then eventually I'll take a cobalt blue and I can just give shadow to all of this. Done correctly, you will not confuse the shadow with the blueberry.
Aditi, what's the third color you mixed in the waffle? Other than gamboge, orange, and
Yeah, let
Yeah.
me give you the colors. Yeah, so first one was gamboge and orange, that was this. Second was orange and crimson, scarlet, that was this. And the last one was burnt umber, scarlet and orange, that was this. So this is gamboge and orange, orange and scarlet, orange, scarlet and burnt umber.
that was for the waffle, right?
For the waffle, yeah. All right. Do you all want to give it a shot? So give yourself 15 minutes for just the drawing if you want to. You don't have to draw fast. I was drawing fast because I'm used to drawing, but draw slowly but draw very brief lines so that your picture doesn't look too clunky. Now, Rohit, in your illustration of that Ganesha, I noticed that your lines are a little fragmented. So instead of that, can you try just making the whole shape, especially if it's something like a circle? If it comes to be a square, make the square, at least over here, you won't even have to make square. It's all rounded lines. So try to make more continuous lines.
Got it. So even if that means like overwriting it,
Yes. Yeah.
okay, I will try.
Okay. Okay. If you are unhappy with your lines, do not erase them. Make uh, more lines or different lines.
I have to ask, what's
Yes.
what's Gambo? So what you said?
Gamboge. Gamboge is this color. This one. The warm yellow.
Hmm, I don't have that.
Do you have any other warm yellow?
My watercolor set looks like this.
Okay, let's have a look. I'll give you the color shade. Just 1 second. Huh? Yeah, so the color, your yellow, the one on top, that's warm enough. You
Mhm.
can use that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
With every layer that you make, add, change what you are painting. And also what you will change is the consistency of paint. So the more detail you need in your painting, the more control you will need for your color. And for that, it's best if you use a thinner brush, slightly thinner brush, progressively, and thicker paint. As far as possible, when we are making foods, even though in this particular case you do see them, avoid making perfectly angular squares. Just 1 second. Just give me a second. I'm shutting the camera, but I'll be back in a bit. There's someone at the door. Now, when you're painting, you might find that the colors are merging or too many things might be happening. Again, if you are in doubt or if you feel that something's going wrong with the colors, don't try to correct the watercolor when it is wet. Just let it do its thing. We have the opportunity of multiple layers to change what is being seen on paper. if you try to correct when the watercolor is wet, this is like actually the fact is more ironic or counterintuitive than what we might seem. It feels like, okay, it's fresh, it's wet right now, let me quickly just take it out, and there'll be no damage done. However, in the process, you will damage the paper surface, and there will be, no matter what you do, some pigment will have settled and will have stained the paper. So, in your attempt to clean that out, you will be dislodging other colors, or you would just be embedding that stain further and further. So, all in all, no matter what explanation I'm trying to give you, just don't do it. So, wait, let it dry. It's really not the end of the world. Even if your shade is totally off, we can use it to our advantage to create shadows or depth or texture in the next layers. So that's the biggest thing as beginners of watercolors we must learn to do, is not fiddle with uh, runny colors. Now, the best bit about watercolor also is that each shade that we make, that is deeper or darker, need not be made in the same way everywhere. So here we have used a darker shade by mixing the original colors with a brown. Makes sense. Here we already have a brown. We can do exactly the same thing, or we can mix a blue and completely change what is called the hue of or tone of that brown. They are related. They look pretty much the same because their base color is burnt umber. But there will be a certain redness to one, or a blueness. That is its internal hue. So I'm mixing scarlet, burnt umber, and cobalt blue to create this very deep reddish brown shade. Along the edges, I'm using just the tip of the brush to create almost a broken line in this deep brown color, whether it's this color or the earlier color, to reinforce the edges. Most foods don't have clear square edges. So even if you see a waffle that is cut up in what might look like a sharp square edge, if you make it sharp with the point, it looks very unnatural. In all likelihood, you would never pick up any food like that to eat yourself. So don't draw it. Here I'm actually using blue, not even bothering to mix it with any other color. So this is to demonstrate that you can mix up a whole range of colors to create effects. This will give me some shadow. And also some nice sharp edges. I'm not overdoing the blue, but it's still there. And part of it I will use to reinforce the shadow edges underneath this. You can use the same gray color that we made earlier, just cobalt blue and black, or just use a little bit of watery cobalt blue to again reinforce some shapes by doing some brush manipulation. So I just want you to see this. I'm going to start this, make the shape of an inverted S by touching the brush down and then pressing it and then picking it up like that. So I'm not making an outline and a shape. I'll make another one here. So just touch and press. This is just brush manipulation that's often used in calligraphy, but can be used to our advantage even in quick sketch or quick painting, like so. A lot of different shapes are created. And the best bit is they automatically have concentrated paint in some places and slightly less concentrated paint in the others, which is what we want when we want to make shadows of soft objects like cream, whipped cream, some desserts perhaps. And that should do it.
So Aditi, to get
Yeah.
that shades, what can I use in?
Okay, do you have the names of the colors?
Hmm, good question.
Never
No.
mind. Just turn it towards me. Let me have a look. I'm gonna just name all your colors.
Oh wow. Okay.
Okay, you have 15 shades. The way I see them,
Oops.
I'll just give you some names so you know what we are referring to.
That would be
This
amazing.
is the top
Yeah.
layer. The way I'm seeing it. This is when you turn it around, you'll see it that way. So there's a red color here, here, and here. Okay, there's one here.
Mhm.
I'm going to give you numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
So this is one, right? For you?
No, that is 5. So I'm seeing
Okay, got it.
maybe I'm
So
seeing
one.
it the other way around. Yes.
Understood. Clear.
When you turn it around, which color is on your left? On your
When I see it towards myself, yeah, the number one.
number 1 is to
Green.
your left, right? Okay. Good.
So it's a green
Okay.
color. Yeah.
Okay, so I can't really tell which color that is, but number 3 is gamboge. This is just a substitute for all the
Yeah.
colors I have. So
Thank you.
3 would be gamboge. 5 looks like scarlet. 6 looks like either crimson or deeper red. It's basically just a deep red the way I see it. Okay, could you, sure, is there more light I can get on that? Because there isn't enough illumination. Better. Number 4 looks like yellow ochre. Number 8 and 13, are they two blues? 8, 9, and 13.
Yes, I think one of them is, I think the low one is ultramarine.
Okay, so that's
At
number
least based on
13, ultramarine.
the
And
lighter one.
8
Yeah,
would be
lighter
cobalt.
size. Yeah.
Okay. Number 2 is white, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And where is black? Is
Black
it number
is
12?
here.
Oh, number 15.
I think it's 11 or 15.
It should be 15, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And
5
what-
is red, right?
5 is red, yes. So the reds are different hues. Some are warmer, some are cooler. Even in that we have differences. So I see number
Okay.
5 is a warmer red and 6 as a cooler red. And
Yeah, it's
number
like pinkish.
So that is crimson. And number 14
Crimson.
looks like an orange. Is it a more orange shade? Number 14, right next to black?
Definitely orange. Yes.
Okay. All right. Then number 1 is a green.
Yes. It's yeah, it's like parrot green.
Yeah,
I
so that
guess.
will be the equivalent of sap green for us.
Sap
Yeah,
green.
I'm going to share this with you, Rohit. Don't worry.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
a
Okay. Thank
picture
you.
of the sheet with you, so you don't have to bother writing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.
Let's see what the other colors are. Number 7 is a green as well, right?
Yes. Wow.
That
Yes.
looks like a viridian.
That's a dark green. That's what
Yeah.
I'm calling it.
So now 9, 10, 11, and 12. I can't see clearly right now.
Yeah.
So if you
Let
can
me.
just send me a picture
Yeah. Okay. I will do that. Thank you.
in better light, and I'll send you a picture of this.
Yeah. I will do that.
Okay.
Thanks a
Wow.
lot.
No problem. All right. 1 second. Okay. I'll send it to you, huh, Rohit? It should be on directly from me.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll check that.
Okay. How are your illustrations looking? I think it's over 15 minutes. Do you still need some time for painting? Let's see, Janita's very nice. Looking good. Could you share a picture on the group, Janita? Yeah, thank you. So normally we are trying to create accurate pictures using these 4 items: size, shape, proportion, and placement.
I can't hear you. Are you speaking?
Yeah, I am. You can't hear me clearly?
Now we can.
Oh, that's
At
very
least I could. I don't know if it's my network or yours.
Oh, okay. Okay, so these are normally the factors that we look at and try to get everything as accurate as we can. Sizes of objects, their shapes, proportion in relation to each other, placement in relation to each other, and we arrive at something that looks close to our reference image. This time we are focusing more on the shape and one more element, and that's color. So proportion, placement, size is not very important over here. Say, for example, if your waffles become really big, or your cream becomes very big, or strawberry becomes very big or small or whatever, it will not matter in this kind of style of illustration. So we want to be able to draw.
I think I need to master this time.
It's quite, it'll come to you as soon as you let go, it'll come to you.
So do we all. Okay, Aditi, this
Yeah.
you think is, oh dear, something has happened to my camera.
Your camera is pointing somewhere else.
Oh gosh, what do I do with that? Yeah, gone back.
Yeah.
What do you think?
1 second, let me pin it. I think it's very nice. Very good.
How do I, I've tried outlining the cream, but the cream looks very flat and everything looks higher. How
So,
do I put a cream on top of everything?
yeah, so what you do is, see, the strawberry now is definitely on top of the cream. Yeah, the
Right.
one you have.
Right, right,
But
right.
just along the edge of the cream, if you can put
Like
one
that.
dark line,
Okay.
just along the edge, not the whole patch.
Okay.
The edge. If you make the whole patch, it's going to be flat again.
Oh,
Just along the edge, if you press the brush, the tip
okay.
of the brush going along the edge, it'll become dark and the rest will remain light. Then you should be okay.
Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right, let's try the next one. That's the bowl of ramen, I think, or is it rice? It's rice, it's not even ramen. Okay, abandon the first illustration. Let's all start this one together.
The maple syrup, we don't show it.
No,
flowing.
no, don't show, don't bother with
Don't
it.
show.
Yeah, you can write it in the narrative somewhere with maple syrup. A maple syrup optional. Or please don't have so much sugar. Eat healthy. Anything. I can't draw it.
Where's the maple syrup? In this waffle one?
Yeah, there's some maple syrup along
It's
the
on the
edge.
That
side.
fishy-washy maple
Yeah.
syrup?
Yes. Don't bother with such liquids. Those are traps, I'm telling you, in many ways than just art. Sugar syrups. All right. Now the next one is again a circular composition. So I'll make that over here. And if there are any pertinent colors, I will put them along the edge. So in terms of composition also, it looks good. So here's another thing. Wherever possible, try to see that your pictures are always composed. There is some kind of thought given to overall composition of the page.
Oh,
I have come to the conclusion that composition is a habit. Sometimes you can't force it, but you can be aware of it. So if you have made your illustration somewhere in the center over here, then this next illustration needs to be smaller. It needs to be in a place where you have little more room than the other. And then when you make the coffee, it's going to be somewhere over here. You might have to split the coffee and the biscotti, something like that. You must give a thought to composition. That's a very important part of setting your mind in a manner that will benefit your art always. Okay. Now this one, let's start again with a circle. Then we have that convenient egg in the center. And then we have all sorts of shapes. So here, just make these shapes like you see them. Do not zoom into the picture. You see some lines here where you have, I think, bean sprout. Then you have some runny lines like that, which are, I guess, carrot. Now, none of this is touching the edge of the circle, but it is not all within one circle also. So somewhere over here, you have the edge come slightly lower and the food comes slightly higher. This is one way to show dimension. The food is higher and the edge of the food and that touches the bowl is slightly lower. Don't draw the rice at all. Just draw a line like that, which imitates the edge of some of these rice grain. And in between these, you will make a few grains which are standing out like that. That's it. That's how rice is to be illustrated. And then, I don't know what this is. It's probably spinach or something, which is just stringy stuff. So draw it like strings. So what we are doing right now is distilling all the information into shape and color. So earlier we would have gone through other details in this also. Texture, we would have gone into forms. Then of course, placement has to be accurate. So you'll realize that even without wanting to, if you just focus on the broad strokes, you will be able to get the exact proportions very accurately. And now it's again just a matter of mixing colors that look like the colors that you see. So in this case, now what I can suggest you can do is let's try a little bit of lettering along with this also. Just match the colors and don't bother with too much detail. Here, this is yellow ochre and burnt umber. Then I have orange. So when you have your lines drawn or your
Aditi, you're going to write those colors
yes,
down, right?
I am, yes.
Thank you.
When you draw so much detail, even this much detail of the objects that you intend to paint later, you can completely do away with the fancy coloring. This is just plain yellow with sap green. Okay, let me write these colors down for you. Now things like that are very nice in watercolor. My carrot has flown into my cucumber. Here's a green for the cucumber made from yellow ochre, cobalt blue, and maybe a little bit of sap green. So this is a slightly deeper, duller green, which I will paint like this. So automatically leaving a highlight.
I had a question. This color mixing, is it like by trial and error you get it, or there's some, technique that you have to use to understand how to mix the colors to get a particular shade?
Much of it is from practice, I would say. I won't call it trial and error.
Okay.
But there is a technique also which comes in place. So, say, take all the colors that we have over here on the page. You will see there are two, three things that you notice about color. One is the what's called its chroma, which is whether it's red or green or blue. That's its natural color. Then you have a hue to it. So these are words that they use in color theory, which when they teach in design school or colleges, art colleges, goes over everyone's head. Oh, sorry, not hue. So you have chroma. That's the name of the color. And then you have the hue, whether it is hot or cool or dull or bright, all that comes under hue. Then you have intensity. The intensity also can be dull or bright. then you will have brightness itself. All these are very subtle things. You might, in the beginning, it feels as if they're all homonyms, one means the other. But it's not so. Once you start mixing colors, you realize that this green is a deep green of high intensity. So, like viridian is a deep green with a very intense greenness to it. You know what I mean? So is sap green, but sap green is slightly warmer and viridian is slightly cooler. Then, when we want to make things like fruit and vegetables, each of those also has its own coloring. Like, for example, mango can be a very light green like this, or it can be a very deep green also, which might have not viridian, but it will have almost a shade of blue to it. So that I don't know if there's a trick. It's just the more you work with color, the more you start noticing color around you, and then you start thinking or seeing in terms of color also. So I often used to give this exercise to my students. This is like a waiting room exercise. You can, if you look around you, whatever you see, you can try and think about how you would paint it, not draw it. So even right now, try this exercise. Just look at your room and identify an object like a curtain, maybe, or a wall, and a plant, and just look at your color palette and see if you were to paint the same thing, what colors would you choose? So in that, you will have one starting point. Say you're looking at a plant, you will say, okay, I'm going to start off with either a yellow or a green. In these two options, now I have lemon yellow or gamboge. I think lemon yellow has a better shade because it is more yellowish and cool yellow than gamboge. So then you've chosen one. Then you, with the greens, you say, okay, sap green is good. Emerald is too artificial and viridian is too intense. So I'll go with sap. Now, when you mix these two, you realize that sap green and lemon yellow make a very jhatak green. It's like so jhatak, you don't, no plant is going to look good in it. So then you say, okay, what do I need to do to this? I need to make it slightly duller. So the dullness comes from either adding yellow ochre to it, or you can add a blue to it. In the blues, if you land up adding cerulean blue, then you've gone and made it fluorescent. So definitely not cerulean. Between cobalt and ultramarine, both of them have a certain personality. So they will change the color to another form. If none of these work, then you can also go into raw umber, burnt umber. And then if you want a slightly brownish green, you can go into reds also. So each of them has their own, I guess, nature, like a hue, intensity, brightness, and they add that to the existing shade so that you can make multiple shades. So some of the best solutions that I have found are through these accidental color merges. Wherever they happen, you should just welcome them because there's no telling what is hidden behind that crazy mix. Now this is the same color, yellow and yellow, ochre and burnt umber, but it's slightly deeper and I've added there's a little scarlet in the neighborhood. So I've just picked that up also for the mushroom. And I'm trying to just get the shape of the mushroom. And with every successive layer, I'm going to make this color more and more dark. The color for the bean sprouts is a neutral shade, which
Aditi, do you mind repeating the colors for the mushrooms?
yeah, so these mushrooms, the colors are yellow, ochre, and burnt umber. And for the darker shade, you just paint it with more intensity. I've already got a very watered down, watery yellow ochre, burnt umber mix here. which I put as the base layer. And then on top of that, I used its own avatar, which is slightly deeper, but this one also has literally a scarlet in the neighborhood that decided to take a ride. Just this much. So this is the shade that I've got. It's mostly burnt umber with a little bit of yellow ochre to tone it down.
Got it. I think my mushrooms are going to be yellow.
The yellow mushroom?
Yes.
Never mind, let it dry completely. Let it dry. Don't mess with it. Don't add a second layer of color. We will serve your rice noodles with different kind of mushroom. I'm sure there's 1,000 different varieties of mushroom. We'll find one that is edible in your color. For the bean sprouts here. Here again, I'll show you how this color mixing is done so that you don't land up with intense colored veggies. So this is how I would mix color. Lots of water and very little color. And if you spread the color around, you get to test it. You get to see how the shade will look on paper. So this is cobalt blue and yellow ochre. It gives you a slightly dullish, greenish yellow, and take a very little amount of that and spread it with a flattened brush. So you just stain the paper ever so slightly in your first round, and the color is not too intense. So if you feel that it's become too yellow, you can put a second layer and change that completely. So between this shade and the shade that you will use for rice, it's just slightly a little more black you can put. It's the same intensity of color, but with a little black added to it. There's a remarkable difference in the shade to the trained eye. So you can see the difference between a bunch of bean sprouts and rice. And even when you're painting the rice, don't paint it flat. Make lines over there. Even if it is a very light color, this subtle texture is visible to the eye. Our eye is far too clever for our own good. Once your first layer of the bean sprout has dried, add some more blue to that same shade. And now just make a few lines along the edge so that you add depth. These subtle colors are what will make your picture look like there is some heap to this. Now I'm going to use the same color of mushroom that's over here and add it to the scarlet in the neighborhood. Add a little bit of orange to that, and I get the next shade. This would be for carrot. Now this is how I'm going to paint the carrot. I'll hold one line and I'll make a few shades, a few shapes around it to reinforce. And very often I'll use the shapes made by the pencil line itself to create this zoodle out of carrot. Now all this is pretty flat. So here comes the gamboge. Now for the egg, if you all can just keep your brushes down and just observe this once. I'm going to try and do this in the easy way. You make a circle, paint a circle, and then leave a crescent shape unpainted. Fill this whole thing up. And then while this is wet, just take a little bit of, there's a color called light red, or you could take the same shade with gamboge. And while it's wet, just make a, oh, no, it's not going to happen. Just a subtle drop of color on the opposite side of the highlight. This is a wet on wet application. So ideally this should come wet. But if you can't make it wet, if it's not visible in one or two strokes, then let it be. Once it has dried completely, we can make a nice subtle ring of the same color. So the colors for the egg are gamboge, and then a mix of gamboge and light red. So light red is like a reddish brown color. Now we can make much more details over here. But now I'm moving to the bowl itself. I'll tell you what color I'm using. But this is one practice that you should all do frequently, is painting with the tip of your brush to get the exact shape in negative. And then the same brush you can pull across. And as you come to the other side, you can just let the color dissolve. Don't add more color to the brush. Just use water. So you have a very intense shadow on one side and hardly any on the rest. The shade I used here was, what was this one? So this was the color for the rice, no? No, for the beans. No, this was rice. Yeah.
Aditi, there's a little pale yellow for the beans in the bean sprouts. So that is gamboge and lemon yellow mixed.
No,
Just lemon yellow.
you could try that. Although I have used, that was the color that I wanted, that I forgot to make a swatch of. That is actually yellow ochre and cobalt blue.
Oh.
So where have I used this color?
Yellow ochre and cobalt blue made the taupe for the sprout itself, no? But for the bean, there's a pale yellow.
Where do you see the bean? Is it beans? Is it this?
No, 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 no.
That's
For the bean
spinach.
sprouts.
Yeah, that
For
one.
the bean sprouts, at the end, it turns
Oh.
into a pale yellow.
No, that's too much detail. Don't go into so much
No?
detail. No, forget it.
Okay.
Not for this illustration.
Okay, okay.
Hmm. Now the rim of this bowl is just I think a yellow ochre, reddish or yellowish yellow ochre. You can change that to whatever color you want. Maybe even make it a blue or green if you like it. So these are creative decisions that you should take for yourself when painting. Don't just go with whatever is given to you in the reference image. We should behave like the millennial children. I will do what I like. The biggest reason for that is one, this is the differentiating factor between art and photography, like painting and photography. Photographers try really hard to call themselves artists. Some of them are, because with photography, they're able to create beautiful images are that can tell a story, that sometimes have such interesting details in them that you wonder how the photographer caught them in real life. With art, we must recognize that we have an advantage. We can make our own story. So you should be open to changing whatever you feel you want to change in the picture to suit your story. Here I've just added a black to the same color that we'd used. And you can add black to any of the grays that we have made in this so far. But just keep it light. Don't make it too heavy. Don't make it too thick. And paint it in all these crevices. You can also add some shadow to places like these where we've got rice or even beans, using a slightly thinner brush if you want and slightly more concentrated paint. So when you keep your paint translucent, there's a lot you can do with that translucent paint. And consistently keep adding more and more depth to your picture. Okay, here's the last bit. Okay, if you have just 10 minutes extra, I want to attempt the last illustration. So I want to give you another 4 minutes till 12:20 to finish the rice bowl or abandon it and then move on to the next one. And you may complain that I'm not giving you enough time. I'm perfectly okay with accepting that complaint. The whole point is that these are quick illustrations. So if I don't rush you, there's a good chance you'll labor on this for the whole 90 minutes, when that is not the point of today's exercise. So if you're lagging behind, don't worry. Everybody's lagging behind. And if you're feeling rushed, that's a good feeling, because the next time you're traveling and you want to sketch, it won't be me who will be telling you this. It'll be your family, your kids who'll sit on your head and say, stop this illustration. At that time, you'll be glad you spend some time in making quick illustrations. And you can say, okay, give me 2 minutes and I'll be done, and you'll really be done.
Actually, I did this, but then I messed up my painting with the rim of the plate.
Okay, let's see how the mess up looks.
Very bad. Yeah. The vegetables and everything was coming okay, but my rim is dreadful. I just have to keep it narrow, and there's a little white space you've left, which I haven't left, which makes all the difference. Or maybe, you know what? I think my veggies are not extending like yours are into the plate.
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
They've stuck to a circle.
They're stuck to like a rim, you know?
Mm.
That's
Mm.
terrible. Okay, I'll just do something about that.
But no, so Elaine, two
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
One is I'm wondering whether you're overworking your colors, or just
Yeah.
the light in which I'm seeing this is too dull. It's making your picture
Okay.
look too dull. Now, in the
Okay.
event that your food or is looking a little dullish, you should
Yeah.
make the rim bright.
Yes.
It just
Yes.
pulls all the colors
Yes. No,
well.
no, the rim is completely the wrong idea. You should have left it white. Yeah.
No, it's not looking bad. If it's compared, then it looks bad. Don't compare it. It's looking perfectly fine if you don't compare it. I'm going to advise you to take a deeper color, cobalt blue and black shadow, and just try
Okay.
this just along the edge with a maybe
Yeah.
thin brush
Okay.
along
Let
the
me.
dark
Yeah,
edge.
and I'll extend a little bit of maybe the mushrooms, or it looks
Yeah.
as if they're all fitting into some round thing.
No, let them fit in. Now don't fiddle with
Hmm.
that.
Okay.
But do something like this, just along
Okay.
the edge of
Okay.
some fruits, but not again, don't go over everything.
Everything. Okay. Yeah.
That
I
will,
think maybe this light is also quite pathetic. It's at the back of me, no?
ah,
Anyway, never mind. Yeah, I'll do that.
yeah, so like that, and a thick and thin
Oh,
line would actually help better.
right, right.
So I want to avoid making such details. This is now
Oh,
going into very
yeah,
detailed illustration.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, chalo. Now, last bit is that coffee cup and biscotti. That is not going to
Yeah.
be very difficult. Okay, but here's the but. We have to draw this with a pen.
Yeah.
No pencil, just direct pen. And I'll show this to you. 2 minutes. Only shapes. We're just looking at shapes, no proportion, no sizing. Placement can be all over the place. So this is what I'm doing. This is my glass. I am deliberately making multiple lines because this is like that old adage, if you can't convince them, confuse them. If you draw too many lines over there, they look like, how, okay, it's more or less what we are trying to say. It's okay, some kind of coffee thing or cup thing. And there is something about multiple lines that makes a picture look very sketchy and very almost architectural, which looks very impressive. Now, don't ask me why. I don't know whether it's because architects come across as impressive people, or some people's romantic idea about what architects are. Whatever it be, these lines are often appreciated. So we might as well take advantage of it. A lot of times, illustrations like that can come crooked and out of proportion. But I want you to focus on drawing very strong lines. Even if they are crooked, it's fine. If you draw lines which are like this, they will look very amateurish for no reason. In trying to make your illustration look better, you'll in fact make it look worse than it would have otherwise. Now my biscotti is over here. I've drawn my coffee espresso machine a little into the biscotti, so I'm just going to change the position of the biscotti. One of them is even floating now. Okay, just draw it floating. And that should do it. So that was 2 minutes. Okay, come on, everyone. Start drawing first. Forget the painting bit, just draw. Keep looking at the reference image. For every line, look at the reference image. You will be able to do it. All done? Okay, 2 minutes are up. Should be done. 1 second, let's see Janita's. Okay, not bad, Janita. Very good.
The proportion has to be kept in mind. The biscotti to the no,
No,
doesn't matter.
not for this one. No, it doesn't matter at all. Anyhow,
Aditi?
yes. Oh, very nice. Very good.
Thank you.
Science.
Thank you.
I like.
We didn't have to do the detailing and all, but just in case we wanted to do the white sesame seeds, how do we show it? Just not for this one, but just in general, I'm asking. Like
Wait,
on the spinach,
the biscotti
just
got.
leave it.
Ah, okay.
No,
Okay.
I'm talking about the spinach for the second
Right.
illustration.
Let me see.
You just leave gaps like
No, 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 no. You don't leave gaps. That would be too much.
okay.
If you make a very realistic illustration, then for that you can use things like a white pencil or a white ink pen. Like, I think I should have one of these here. Those will make a white mark. So when you get adequate green contrast and you can make those white marks, that'll look like sesame and almost like this. So if I make black marks with my pen, this will look like either the onion seed or whatever they put. I think this is kalonji, if I'm not mistaken. So the same thing you can make with white. But it's not really necessary. You can just say sprinkle with sesame in your recipe and that's good enough. All right. Now, for painting this, I want you to try your own colors. I'm not going to give you the color breakup anymore. And for that matter, you don't have to make it look identical to the original image. So even if you want to use things like over here now I see yellow. I'm going to use a gamboge here. And on this, I will use another color. And let's see how it looks. Okay, so give it a go. Find your own colors and your own expression. The more unique it is, the better it would be. It took me a very long time to get used to seeing color merges like that. It requires a certain amount of, I guess, ease of mind. There are people who are, I don't know if you know of people, I'm sure everyone knows of people who are never phased. Anything can happen in their life, and they're just, my father is that kind of a person. He's just never phased. I try to be like that, but there are days when I'm consumed by anxiety. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? So, watercolor is either for people who have that kind of ease of mind, or anxious people like us can become people who have complete ease. It's okay, nothing happens. Yellow goes into blue, it's okay. We have to adopt that kind of a mentality. I learned a lot about this painting technique from watching Milind Moik. So he does mostly landscape, but he has been a painter forever now. So his hand just dances on paper. He does not really have to speak, and he doesn't really speak too much when during his workshops. But I guess the whole point is to observe how he moves his brush around, what he is able to see and depict. And I come from the background of making pen and ink illustrations, which are very accurate, extremely accurate illustrations. So for me, this was very difficult in the beginning. So I found a sweet spot. I enjoy these little bits where I can do some places where you need detailing. You can do that. I can do that well, and that works out good enough for me. Do leave highlights and make some shadows. No matter what else you do, these things will definitely make your picture look very convincing. And the earlier food colors are already there for the biscotti. The same yellow ochres and burnt umbers in different combinations, sometimes with a little bit of red infused into it, sometimes burnt umber. And after this dries, you can just make a few dots with brush and that should do it. See, these shadows that I have made are with a very watery shade. And after the initial painting has dried, I've made those. Just a little bit of shadow like that goes a long way.
Aditi, here's my super fast one. There are lots of stuff I messed up, but at least I just did it fast. Have a look.
Yes. Oh, 1 second. How nice.
That was your idea of just letting it be now, whatever comes.
Yeah, how do you like it?
Yeah, I also enjoy the process as usual. Whenever you do some of these free and easy things, I enjoy the process and always want to go back to the children's class as usual. No, I really, this is such fun, but we don't do it enough.
I think, yeah. So now you can do it just every morning. Just pick up a pen and paint. Okay, just give me a minute. I need to, there's someone at the door.
You don't see mine. It's not as good as yours, but it's pretty dirty.
Can't see, it's all blurred. Wait.
Oh no.
I
why
think
is
you've
that?
got a blurred background, so it's blurring
Yeah.
everything.
Let's
Just,
see.
just can't
That
see.
was the effect I was going for
Ah,
anyway.
if it's close to you, you can still see it clearer
Yeah.
because it comes into your.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Nice, nice. You can absolutely make out the coffee pot, though it's very far away, but you can.
Yeah.
Pretty good. This is good. This is a fun class. I always said this kind of thing always interests me a lot. The detail we can always sit and do, but to get something quickly is. And with pen, straight away.
Did your ink, like your pen's ink, did it like blur out when you put water
No,
on it?
you have to
You
use
have
the
to-
micron. That is waterproof.
This one.
Therefore, we
Oh.
use micron.
See
Yeah.
these.
Ah, yes. Oh.
That's a brush pen,
You
right?
invest
No,
in
I'm
this
using a
and
normal
this
normal pen.
paint. This
No.
is what we
Yeah.
use.
But
So
this is the
hmm.
pen you need to use. If you don't want, if you have control, you can do a brush. But if you want straight lines, the micron pen needs to
It's
be used.
waterproof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll get those out.
And this is
Thank
very,
you.
what she showed you, this is, it comes with a little see-through paper which names all the colors. So you put it on top in the part,
Hmm.
and so you can refer and know the colors then if you get
Yeah,
this
I think
one.
I was trying to be smart and I replaced all
No,
these colors
no,
with
no,
my
no, no,
own.
no. This one is very useful. That little thing when you're starting can be, it just limits you so much because everything is here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I removed all those cakes and I put new ones.
Oh, I see. No,
Yeah.
no, no, no.
Wrote
That
it.
it has that
Yeah.
lovely see-through paper with the names, which is a
Oh,
big
okay, okay.
help.
Yes.
So when you,
I just showed my dirty coffee pot. It's pretty.
Show Aditi.
oh, let's see.
I think Amelia is showing them, so maybe after her.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
mine.
1 second, let me just have a quick look. Oh, very nice. Were you comfortable with the pen?
Yes, of course.
Good, very
Mm.
nice.
The tea still looks flat, right?
Yeah.
The
So it
coffee,
needs,
yeah, looks
correct.
flat.
So it needs a little depth in all the crevices of the glass. You
Uh-huh.
can, on one side, if you make a slightly deeper shade, it will
Mhm.
pull the glass out a little bit. But
Mhm.
I'm also thinking the base of the glass looks too flat. You can make it
Flat.
slightly rounded. Don't bother coloring it now, but just make
Okay.
it slightly rounded or make some kind of shape with which that whole double line thing will make it look more 3D.
Okay. Okay.
Good.
Yeah. This was fun.
Yeah, it was really. It's a great deal of fun.
Good. So these try to make some more of these illustrations. Look for what's called I guess food aesthetic on Pinterest. Then you get all sorts of compositions with all hazard stuff. You will have a simple coffee cup, but it'll just be the drama around it is very nice to illustrate. Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
No, so look for images which have one or two things. Sometimes you will have a whole table spread of plates and glasses. It looks very nice and you go to attempt it, but it can go wrong. So look for things like just a coffee cup and a croissant, or maybe some jam with toast. Or if you have in Indian foods, you might probably have things like a thali, but look for a thali in which there are some raw things like the rice bowl that we made, not so many curries, because curries are just puddles. So you don't want to make a whole circle with small circles of puddles. Yes, Amulya?
Actually, when you want to make your own composition for a recipe, so like you said, use the bigger element in smaller numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
quantity wise, you follow that, but then what comes in the front, what comes in the back? I mean, how do you decide on that?
As a so just as a thumb rule, that which is pretty, you make it shine. So think of a Hindi movie chorus dance. Who brings in the bucks? Shah Rukh Khan or Salman Khan or Ranveer Kapoor or Singh or whichever. They are in the center. So if you've got like a purple cabbage, or you've got a lovely green salad, or you've got a lovely fruit, that fellow, even if it is in small quantities, takes front and center, and then everything else is around it. If you've got really boring vegetables like or like potatoes, all tubers are horrible. You cannot make any illustration with tubers look good. Then in that case, look for in that the colorful tubers. So put the sweet potato in the front, and then the boring potatoes behind, or the sweet potato and the carrot in the front. Keep the carrot with the greens in the front and the others around it. So look for the Shah Rukh Khan in your recipe. And if nothing at all, then make your bowl attractive. So, like I often say, a pound cake is the most boring ingredient and boring outcome. But the process is very good, and also the presentation can be very good. So, a pound cake with a few fruit or berries on top will look very beautiful. And then behind it, you can actually forget about drawing ingredients because it's all flour, sugar, all white stuff. You might as well make an illustration of a countryside or something. So we are going to do these two things. You guys have missed 2 classes this month. So I want to do one class at least next week in which I will speak about how to compose the recipe. So there's one thing about drawing the ingredients that we have done. 2 classes we've done that. But you need to know how to compose, what are the aspects of composing a layout for a recipe. So we'll do that with a few thumbnail illustrations, so you get to get more options before you start illustrating. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
thank you. Yeah, no, just to say thanks, and you're looking extremely Kashmiri. All you need is a tehroos and you'll be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye,
Thank
thanks.
you. Bye bye.
Thank you.